Hello everyone! Today, we're returning to our series of shows aimed at analyzing the legitimacy of Pokemon League champions in the Pokemon games. The character we're going to focus on today is Steven Stone, the Hoenn champion in the Ruby and Sapphire versions. So, we'll be playing as the trainer in Pokemon Emerald to see firstly if he's capable of defeating the 4 members of the Elite Four, and then he'll face off against the new game champion, Wallace. The members of the League in Pokemon Emerald are slightly stronger than in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, so it seems like a good basis for all the League challenges we'll undertake in the 3rd generation. Steven's first Pokemon is a Skarmory, so we'll place it as the lead for all battles. His preferred type is Steel, but he also has the 2 fossils from the generation on his team, Cradily and Armaldo, since he's the son of the president of the Devon Corporation, which revives them in these games. His signature Pokemon is Metagross, a pseudo-legendary, and his 2 last Pokemon are Aggron and Claydol, so it's a solid team that can withstand sandstorms. But is it capable of defeating the Hoenn League? The first Elite Four member is Sydney, and we'll immediately see why Skarmory is a perfect lead for the team. It can set up entry hazards, which are elements on the battlefield that damage the opponent every time a Pokemon enters the field. This is essential in strategy, where switching is crucial, so we won't hesitate to set up 3 rows of spikes against the first Mightyena. Being of the Steel type greatly aids in setting up the spikes, since the opposing Pokemon can't significantly weaken us, and we can return its attacks until Sydney decides to heal his Pokemon. It's time for Skarmory to pass the baton to another Pokemon, like Aggron, also resistant to dark attacks. With a single Earthquake, he KOs the dog, and in retaliation, Sydney summons a Crawdaunt. To counter the water Pokemon, it's important to switch, and that's where Cradily is sent into battle. The opponent's Surf hits us neutrally, and thanks to the spikes, it's left with only 75% of its health. So, with a Giga Drain, we can one-shot it, and most importantly, recover all our health. Shiftry is called out, and we won't hesitate to bring back our Skarmory. Thanks to Aerial Ace, which ignores the opposing Pokemon's reflect attacks, we can severely injure it while it torments us. Even if we miss our Steel Wing, the opposing Pokemon can be taken care of with a final Aerial Ace. The next Pokemon is Absol, and its move Swords Dance can be concerning, so we'll bring back a Pokemon that can tank its attacks thanks to its good defense, Aggron. With Earthquake, it worries the opposing Pokemon, which must try to intimidate us to finish us off, but it ends up missing its attack, and we can terminate it with a final Earthquake. Cacturn is the final Pokemon, and it's Skarmory that is chosen to aim for the 6-0, well rather the 5-0, with an Aerial Ace that ends Sydney's hopes. First battle successful, it's quite handy to have the type advantage, and we can observe that Steven's team is quite strong, even if Psychic-type Pokemon haven't entered the fray yet. Will they appear against Phoebe's Ghost types? In any case, we're starting the battle in the same way. Skarmory sets its spikes, an attack that still works even when Dusclops protects itself, and then we can start attacking. Unfortunately, Aerial Ace doesn't achieve a 3 HKO, allowing the opponent's trainer to heal their Pokemon. To our greatest regret, we lose twice as many PP against Pokemon with the pressure ability. To stall out Dusclops' protection, we send out Aggron to finish Duskull's evolution. Unfortunately, it protects itself again, and in an attempt to save some Earthquakes, we use Dragon Claw. When the attack isn't blocked, we discover with horror that it doesn't finish off Dusclops, so we have to sacrifice 4 more PP to win the battle against the first Pokemon. The next Pokemon is once again a Dusclops, and in a panic, since we're running low on PP, we try Thunder, which lands. The damage isn't bad, and to our delight, we also get a somewhat unexpected paralysis. Unfortunately, the opposing Pokemon knows the Earthquake attack in addition to having a Citrus Berry. Aggron is in danger, and to keep it safe, we send out a Pokemon immune to Earthquake, Claydol. This Pokemon sets up screens, and we'll just use it to set up Light Screen. This will reduce special attacks by 50% for 5 turns. A small mistake, as Shadow Ball is physical in the 3rd generation, so we send out Cradily. The fossil can more easily withstand the Ghost-type attack. Second mistake, since the poison attack is resisted by Dusclops, so we prioritize using Confuse Ray to confuse these Ghost-type Pokemon, which are decidedly difficult to deal with. We can follow up with a Giga Drain to recover some HP, since Confuse Ray will pay off by preventing Dusclops from attacking twice. Now it's time for the Haunted Doll Banette. Even if we take a critical hit from Shadow Ball, our Confuse Ray and Giga Drain combo is effective, as it allows us to recover HP, in addition to preventing our opponent from attacking once. It's effectively disabled, and Phoebe has chosen Sableye to challenge our team. This crucifies our Cradily, so we'll call out another fossil, Armaldo, which will spam Ancient Powers. Our first attack luckily boosts all our stats greatly, and it's a good thing because it allows us to defeat Sableye by continuing with this attack. The last Pokemon is also a Banette that we can easily deal with using our Haunted Powers after the damage from the spikes. Victory is once again achieved without too much difficulty. At this stage of the league, we can say that Steven has handled his battles quite well, but one Pokemon has not yet fought, the signature Pokemon, and it's time for Metagross to enter the fray. And for that, what better opponent than the Ice-type trainer to face the wrath of Steel types? Glacia sends out a Cialeo, while we call call upon our traditional Skarmory to set up as many spikes as possible. The opponent's Ice Ball attack increases with each hit, causing our flying Pokemon to fall after dealing serious damage to the opposing seal. This allows us to send out Metagross, which will start hammering on the ice. With Meteor Mash, it can finish off the ice Pokemon, and the peculiarity of this attack is that there's a great chance of increasing its attack when used against our enemies. Glacia understands the threat posed by our Pokemon and sends out her own signature Pokemon, a Walrein. Unfortunately, a critical hit finishes it off without it having a chance. The next Glalie also suffers a critical hit that it really can't tank, and a second Glalie is sent to the rescue. Meteor Mash is an inaccurate attack, so we miss, but the opposing Pokemon deemed it fit to send Hail on its only chance to retaliate. So, the next turn, our Fist strikes and confirms that the previous critical hit changes nothing. There's one Cialeo left, but no ice Pokemon can resist the power of Metagross, who has finished the battle all on its own. We're not done with surprises yet, as the last Council Members type is one of the best in the game, due to the variety of attacks their Pokemon learn, but also due to the enormous statistics they have. This is the Dragon type. Shelgon is sent out first by Drake, but we're not going to change tactics. In hindsight, our spikes will only hit one Pokemon, but well, the opposing Pokemon was protecting itself anyway, so it wasn't shots in the dark. Once the rows are set up, we recall Skarmory, and it's then Aggron who takes the reins. With its Dragon Claw attack, it has a super effective hit on Drake's Pokemon, and it will exploit it to the fullest. So, Shelgon falls, replaced by Kingdra. This battle will involve a lot of revenge kills in general, as the Pokemon Drake sends out are supposed to be capable of annihilating the Pokemon we have on the field. Thus, with a Surf, we fall against Kingdra. This one loves to set up, so it will try to punish it with Cradily and its Confuse Ray, which should hurt it a lot if it's confused, since its attack is boosted. We try to boost ourselves with Ancient Power, but it's not happening. None of our 5 attacks activate the interesting secondary effects of this attack enough, and with healing, Kingdra stays alive long enough to put us within killing range of the next Pokemon Drake will send out. It's Altaria, and it doesn't hesitate to send us back into our Pokeball, forcing us to send out Skarmory to restore some semblance of order in the battle. In another world, or rather another generation, our Steel Wing attack could do a lot of damage to Mega Altaria, but that's not the case here, so we'll prefer to use Toxic to poison the Dragon and Flying type Pokemon, who also has the annoying tendency to set up. The next move is supposed to be a stab, but we get paralyzed, despite the fact that we win the duel. So, Flygon is tasked with revenge killing its teammate, and it pulls out a fire attack out of the bag, which doesn't prevent us from poisoning it before retreating by sending out Claydol. This Pokemon knows how to use Flamethrower, and with a light screen in place, Crunch doesn't impress it. Slowly, Flygon succumbs to its poison, while we inflict small damage with our Ancient Power. Then comes Drake's final Pokemon, a pseudo-legendary from the 3rd generation, the famous Salamence. We managed to set up a Reflect before succumbing to Crunch, but that won't do, as we're in for a clash of titans since we also have a pseudo-legendary. Metagross is sent into battle to see who is the best of the 2 end-of-league signature Pokemon. But surprisingly, the opponent's Salamence also surprises us with a fire attack. We're slower, and our Meteor Mash goes off, dealing about 75% of Salamence's health. As we are the main Pokemon, we both have a nice citrus berry, like the Walrein, the Dusclops, and the Absol before us. So we catch our breath for the final attack, which should finish off Salamence, and we choose Hyper Beam to finish in style. Surprisingly, the opponent's Flamethrower burns us, which will divide our attack, and we won't be able to finalize the encounter. Drake can heal his Pokemon, while we are condemned to watch our best element succumb to helpless burn damage. The battle has just been reignited due to a status condition, and we choose our last Pokemon, in good health Armaldo, to defeat the dragon. Fortunately, in the Rock Attack's duel, we deal the most damage. Nevertheless, we still have to rely on our Slash attack, as well as a miss from Rock Slide. It was close, but what is clear is that Steven is perfectly capable of overcoming his Elite Four, even if it wasn't obvious for the previous battle. We'll want to push the challenge a bit further, since Wallace, the champion in Pokemon Emerald, is in the next room. Is Steven Stone unable to defeat him with his Ruby and Sapphire team? The battle begins against the Wailord, the giant 6-meter whale. This Pokemon has the move Water Spout, which is more powerful when its user's HP is at maximum, but we won't spend our time reducing its HP, as we are not powerful enough, especially since Rain is summoned. No, we'll prioritize setting up 2 rows of spikes, which could be crucial for the rest of the battle. Obviously, the Wailord overwhelms us, and it's with much regret that we reach into our pocket to send out Metagross. It's powerful enough to withstand a Water Spout, and its attack increases as it uses Meteor Mash. So as Wallace heals his Pokemon, thereby restoring its potential for a destructive attack, our attack has increased considerably to the point of being able to finish off the Wailord. That's the first hurdle since Wallace calls upon his Whiscash to retaliate. It knows Earthquake, which would make short work of our Pokemon, but solutions are scarce in the team, so we choose to lead with our own Earthquake, which hits the fish. 2 down, 4 to go, before receiving a certain Gyarados. Meteor Mash works wonders, especially with a critical hit, which helps knock out a 3rd Pokemon and hope for victory, despite the type disadvantage. In response, Wallace. Wallace uses Tentacruel, and we won't even deign to use the Psychic Stab as we follow up with Earthquake, which can take care of the jellyfish. It's Ludicolo's turn to try to stop us, but its Surf can't finish us off while we can 2 HKO it. Just one Pokemon left before the prize. With 5 Pokemon alive, it should be a piece of cake, right? Metagross has had its time, and when Melodic is called, we can only watch it finish off our Pokemon. We'll send Cradily into battle, and a simple Ice Beam hurts us badly. We manage to confuse it, but it stops there as Cradily falls to the second attack. Back to the bag with Pokemon that don't appreciate a water attack. Armaldo is chosen, and thanks to Cradily groundwork, we manage to send ancient power attacks at the Pokemon without dying directly, even if we end up poisoned in the process. Obviously, with the first Surf, we succumb, but there is still a glimmer of hope. Claydol is sent out, but by some miracle, tanks a Surf. So we have the chance to set up a light screen before fading away. We are now just one Pokemon against one, and unfortunately, we are the owner of Aggron. It has the sturdy ability, but it only works in this generation against moves like Guillotine or Sheer Cold. Thanks to the light screen, we can withstand a Surf. It's enough since it allows us to attack with an Earthquake that sends Melodic back into the depths of its Pokeball. We did it. We defeated the league with the champion of Hoenn. That deserves a thumbs up, because the battle against Wallace, as you saw, wasn't a sure win. Metagross carried the battle, as they say, and it was a real pleasure to test Steven Stone's team for this league. It made the difference in the right moments, but the battles against the last 2 members were quite epic. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to comment on which character you absolutely want to see succeed in this Pokemon League saga. And if champions already have difficulties, I'm curious to know if rivals or gym champions are capable of advancing far in these challenges. In any case, see you soon for a new adventure in a completely new region. Au revoir.